right. So if you want to introduce yourself, right? Everyone knows us already, so.
Sure. So my name is Colin. I also go by the name Loki. I'm well known. I'm the community manager for Thor nodes, and we've recently gone through some major changes, and we have some really awesome new features coming to the ecosystem. We're really prioritizing now, focusing and fleshing out our entire ecosystem. I'm here today to talk to the boys about what's coming up next, and hopefully get some of your questions answered.
Awesome. Vic, do you want to start out with the questions that you had, brother?
Yeah, sure. Let's kick it off here. So one of the things I want to talk to you about is the Thor community really prides itself on trying to educate the space and give some people some like fundamental basis in it. How are you guys planning to tackle the issues surrounding people's unwillingness to actually like read documentation and announcements and like get an understanding and constantly just coming in and just being like, oh, I don't know what's going on. Like someone tell me what's up.
What's going on, guys? What's going on with this? It's an ongoing struggle, and this is what happens when we have a community in DeFi that really prioritizes this quick moonshots kind of mentality. We call them the moon boys, where everyone's looking to have passive income, but nobody really wants to do the research that it takes. So one of the major mechanisms that we do, of course, having super long AMAs and going into an extensive amount of detail on different topics within DeFi, not just specifically Thor related. But the great thing is I have a fantastic mod team behind me, and so over time, a lot of the community has been conditioned to start looking at announcements and start doing some research. And of course, like every other crypto community, every other DeFi community, we have a lot of people that come in and haven't looked at the announcements, haven't looked at the research. But now that the community has been really trained that this is the steps for you to have most of your questions answered, we find that a lot of the community is applying that positive peer pressure, where people come in and ask kind of a ridiculous question, and they not only get the answer, but they get they get an indication on how to learn that for the next time. So it's almost like we're not giving people just fish, we're teaching people how to fish. And I think that that's a distinct value proposition that the Thor community has really brought up, and it's all been homegrown, and it's something I'm very proud of about for our community. Especially comparing to a lot of other DeFi communities, where we're on the lower end of the toxicity scale, and that's because we have a lot of really dedicated people in our community that have been around from day one, who really take in that form of that community leaders, even if they aren't officially mods. And that's something that's really valuable about our community, and really gives me a lot of confidence in the future of our protocol. Not just because I know what's happening in the future and what we're coming out with, but the fact that I know how strong our community is behind us.
Nice. Yeah, it's one of our core tenets of the community here too. Is we really try to educate people and make it a safe space where you can come and ask literally like any question. We get people in here on the regular like what's crypto? How do I make a wallet? Like, what is all this? To like, we get veteran traders in here. They're like, I move $100,000 in Forex a day. Like how do I make money here? Like we get all types.
Well, the beautiful thing is when you have a really fleshed out Discord, you can have specific channels for specific lessons. So that's what we really have in our Thor community. If you go through our server list, you can see our channel list on our server. You can see just a wealth of information. That's everything from compounding instructions to wallet security, where we have full guides and tutorials. And we're looking to branch out more on the educational side of things as things explode. As our community has continued to grow, we're blessed to have 46,000 people in our Discord server, over 40,000 people on Twitter. We have a very large, diverse community, and at this point, we're starting to really feel that responsibility to really educate and help evolve DeFi, the whole scene and culture behind DeFi, to where we think it needs to go in the future.
Nice.
Go ahead,
Ron.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm fairly new to this whole node as a service mechanism. Just in simple terms, when you buy a node at Thor, what are you getting? What's on the other end of it? Is it a validator? Is it a liquidity pool?
So we have what our model is it's actually a clear distinction fusion between DeFi as a service and nodes as a service. So we have the same level RPC endpoints that you'd see at like a strong block or an Atlas, for example, to where every single one of our nodes comes with an RPC endpoint, which essentially gives you a private connection into the AVAX network. We're also looking to expand our RPC endpoints to include Phantom as well. So they're both, whenever you buy any of the Thor nodes, whether that's a Heimdall up to an Odin, you're going to have both RPC endpoint for AVAX and an RPC endpoint for Phantom, which is just something that really helps as these blockchains scale up, to deal with some less in the way of transactional fees and a little bit faster in the way of transactions being processed. But in addition to that, we are the only node project out there right now that has multiple validators on multiple chains. So we currently own and maintain 2 different Phantom validators plus an AVAX validator. So that also is, not just a clear value to these blockchains that we're offering, but it's also a fantastic revenue stream. And I know a lot of people see high rewards and they go, oh, a validator only gives you about 30%, in terms of rewards. How is that sustainable? And, what people really need to realize is that the validators are extremely profitable as you continue to scale up and receive more in the way of delegations. 30% on 500,000 Phantom tokens is one thing, but 30% on 5 million Phantom tokens, when we've only supplied 500,000 Phantom tokens, it becomes a much, much stronger revenue stream. So that's what we do on the nodes as a service. But a primary revenue mechanism for us is our treasury, and that goes down to the DeFi as a service fusion that we've introduced into our model, where essentially we have a treasury, and we've currently done 10 different investments, and we have many more to do. We've invested millions of dollars into DeFi protocols, and what we do is we use the revenue generated from that, obviously barring a good market. We use the revenue that's generated by that to facilitate buybacks to help us condition and pad out our price, but also be able to replenish our reward pools, because we are not an inflationary token. We have a fixed supply.
Great. That's fantastic. Thank you.
Now, on the endpoints you brought up between Phantom and AVAX,
Mhm.
do you plan on bringing any other blockchains in the future? Have you thought of that?
We've certainly
If you
thought of
have,
that. The real problem with endpoints is like it has a distinct value for both the blockchain and the user, but it doesn't necessarily have a monetization play. And for us, what we're trying to do is we're trying to build a really sustainable model with many different revenue streams. So we have to simultaneously prioritize the revenue streams that we're getting from things like validators, from things like our treasury investments, from things like the metaverse stuff that we're doing coming up here, to a couple of the other really cool revenue streams that we're building out. We want to work in conjunction and offer more utility. So we're certainly looking at more validators, more RPC endpoints down the line. But right now, our priority is to have both AVAX and Phantom RPC endpoints, and then expand that as revenue allows us to.
now, I know that is a question that we had too. Vic had. So sorry, Vic. Is you said the metaverse, right? You did make an announcement today, and you have talked about like play to earn games and stuff like that. Can we touch base on that real fast by chance?
sure.
Can you?
For sure. So we have a lot of updates that are coming to our ecosystem. From our perspective, a lot of people have have issues with the selling pressure. And from our mind, what we don't want to do is we don't want to limit people's ability to sell their rewards. We want to offer more and more utility behind the token to increase the buying demand naturally. So that's going to happen through a multitude of different factors. One of them that we're very excited about is our own multiverse game, as well as a play to earn game. So that's going to have play to earn elements within our multiverse game. And the coolest thing is we now have multiple development teams working on this. So our core developers, the ones that have developed the contracts for Thor and the Thor protocol, are currently working on our V2 contract, which is essentially no longer turns us from a fork into our own completely different protocol. But we didn't want to rob resources or manpower from that side of things to then also go on to a metaverse play. So what we've done is we've built out an entirely new dev team that are just strictly focused on the metaverse and play to earn side, allowing us to be able to make really great progress on both sides simultaneously.
Now, with the metaverse, are you making your own metaverse, or are you going to hop into an existing one and play off of that?
To start off, we want to hop into an existing metaverse. So we actually own a parcel of sandbox land that's directly above the SpaceX. We happened to buy it at the right time, right before SpaceX bought, and it really worked out lucky for us. But what we do, our plans here are to really build out an entire full-fledged ecosystem, and things like metaverse games that we want to get more into are certainly going to expand naturally over time. But that's one small piece within the revenue streams that we're trying to build out. What we really see long term is introducing what we're calling a node cap, so we can control the total amount of emissions that are being distributed a day on our nodes, and then introduce a new buying demand and utility to our token via a full-fledged marketplace and launchpad. That's really where we see the long-term ambitions here. We've seen issues and exploits with things like OpenSea, and from our perspective, we don't have a dominant marketplace on the AVAX network, and I think that's a niche that we can fill. And the coolest thing is, because we have this really large community, we can leverage that really large community to already have a pre-existing user base on the marketplace, and then be able to offer a much more curated curated list of NFTs. So we're working with a few high quality NFT projects right now that are going to look to launch on our marketplace. And that's going to offer additional utility to our Thor token as a whole, but also offer a fantastic revenue stream through the transactional volume on that marketplace.
Awesome. So now with that marketplace, right, the revenue that's created from there will be redistributed back to rewards for the node owners?
Exactly. So the whole point here is to generate as much revenue through different streams that are independent of, just current market conditions. We don't want to fall victim to a bear market. So the more revenue streams that we can have that are, consistent and reliable outside of market conditions, the more longevity we have in our protocol and sustainability within our protocol. So all of these revenue streams all collectively go together towards the collective buyback ability of the protocol, and that essentially gives our node owners a better return, because that token price can consistently go up through consistent buybacks, and then all of those bought back Thor tokens on the market can go right back into the to the reward pools, thus completing that cycle.
Awesome. Sorry, Vic, I kind of overtook you there for a second.
All good. It's all good.
I apologize.
No, I was just going to circle back as far as the play to earn game goes. So now I know you have a team of blockchain developers working on that, and some unknown members from the gaming community that are apparently from some pretty high titles. Now, when you release the game, are you guys looking to do like an alpha beta rollout, or are we looking at more of like a production level game when we first get access?
It's more than likely it's not going to be an alpha. We're already currently getting close past the stage of an alpha, but it's certainly going to be a beta that we continuously add more features in until what we would consider a full launch. But our goal here is to have an announcement as of the first with the beta launch, where it's going to be playable for our community. And obviously, what we're trying to do is we're trying to incentivize people who hold higher positions within our community, people that we call God mode, who own one of every single node. We want to give them some additional pre benefits, be able to play it early, as well as have some more integrations with the play to earn side of it, with NFTs and a few other features that we're trying to add in there, to make this as utility based as possible, but also to make the game as fun as possible, so people are going to want to play it.
I just want to quickly circle back around to how this all came to be. I love the stories that lead up to something like this being created. If people met it, for example, and how that all came about. I've had a look at your Twitter and the Medium page and other bits and pieces. I saw that it's kind of started up in December, early December. So I'm just wondering, how did this all come to be? Why maybe even AVAX? How come you chose that as your initial start?
I'll be completely honest. I started off as a simple mod on the server on this project. My history is, and I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Ring Financial and that whole scam.
Yep.
But I was a moderator on the Ring Financial server, and I was the moderator that got unceremoniously banned. And the reason I got banned was I publicly called them out for their shady crap. And I had a real problem with the way that they were running the protocol. I felt like it was not transparent, and I felt like it was very clearly on the Ponzi-nomics side of things. And, of course, we all know Ponzi-nomics is a fantastic way of, building up that initial generation of revenue, but then it's about how you can transition out of that model. And I never saw anything that they were trying to do to get out of the Ponzi-nomics side of things. And so after I was banned, out of pure pettiness, I found the Thor project and had a chance to talk to their developers. And I realized that the developers over the Thor project had shared my same feelings about Ring. So what I did is I started off as a simple mod, and I've worked my way up to the point where I'm the community manager, and I'm one of the core fixtures here at Thor Financial.
Okay, so I mean, in terms of the actual staffing, what does that look like now? I mean, how many co-founders are there? How many developers do you have?
So there's five core developers that started off the protocol, and then I was the 6th edition, and now we have a full UI guy, we have a business manager, we have another community manager that's working as well. So we're scaling up to a team of about 15 people, and then of course we're looking to continuously hire out. We're currently looking for more Solidity developers and full stack guys. There's a lot of things that we want to have working simultaneously, and the only way that we can do that is continuously expanding our team.
Okay, and in terms of venture capital funding or anything like that, what does that look like, or how does that look?
None.
Nothing in that space.
Nothing at all.
Any ambitions?
I'll be totally honest. I'm very wary of any kind of VC action within DeFi. The first 2 letters in DeFi stands for decentralization. And I think when there's a central body that starts to develop control over a protocol, that becomes less and less decentralized. And I think that's antithetical to the entire purpose of what DeFi is. So if we were to ever work with, a bank or a VC in some regard, it would be a very specific arrangement and deal that's being put in place. And luckily, we've grown unbelievably well organically. So there hasn't been a need for us to go out for fundraising or anything like that. We've been, we've grown, I'll be totally honest, we put next to nothing in marketing. We've grown simply through word of mouth and through our own actions. And I think that that's the best way to grow. And I'm not a huge fan personally of involving VCs unless it's absolutely necessary.
Would you agree that some VC investment does give some sort of credibility as well? Obviously, you have major organizations, etc., doing a lot of research, etc., before they put a lot of money into it. Having that gap of having no VC kind of makes it, who's done the research into this, who's willing to put millions into this. It kind of creates that gap. That's what I'm.
The fact that we have tens of millions of dollars already in the protocol, I think that speaks to the validity of VCs, and I think VC also has a real double-edged sword. What you do see a lot with these protocols and a lot of the unethical VCs that exist within this space is they'll fund a protocol only to use the investors as exit liquidity and dump on them later on down the line, and that's something that we also wanted to avoid. We're not a big fan of being beholden to single organizations, and what we'd much rather be is beholden to our community and allow our actions to speak to our own credibility rather than relying on the credibility of some pre-established brand.
Okay. Just as a question in chat, just quickly related to this, do you have any partners, any sort of affiliates that are working with yourselves?
So I am the founder of what we call the Union of Transparency, which is our attempt to build out a completely independent self-regulatory agency within the world of DeFi. There's 4 distinct values that come with the Union of Transparency. This is something that I'm the founder of. It's independent of Thor, but of course Thor is a foundational member within the union. But the 4 benefits, obviously, one are to the investors, where investors know that they have an ecosystem of safe protocols that they're not going to get rugged on. And these protocols exist on every single major chain. There's a clear benefit to the protocols themselves to join. It's not just the credibility that the Union of Transparency brings, but there's also a clear shared investor pool, shared cross-promotion, as well as shared resources. The cool thing is when protocols can band together, when one protocol has an issue, they have a resource of developers that they can call upon from the other protocols to help them out and ensure that everybody within the protocol is successful. But then I also look at things from a regulatory standpoint. I think we all know regulations are going to be coming to this industry sooner rather than later. I think the regulators are currently looking at stablecoins, and once they're finished with stablecoins, they're going to really turn their eyes towards DeFi. And so what we can do, if we can create less of this Wild West environment, as well as create a self-regulatory body, those regulators are going to lean towards us and try to work with us to help them craft regulations for this industry that aren't going to be a bunch of boomers who fundamentally don't understand DeFi making the rules for DeFi. Because I think that's a real possibility for DeFi to die if it's not done through a conducive, effort between both insiders within DeFi and people outside of DeFi. But then, of course, the fourth major benefit to the Union of Transparency, in my mind, and this is a little bit more circumstantial, but I think there's tens of billions of dollars from institutional investors that are just waiting to enter into DeFi. They're all aware of DeFi, but they're all scared of DeFi because of the Wild West, completely unregulated nature of this industry. So I think once these hedge funds and once pension funds and these major institutional investors can see that there's this clear, independent, self-regulatory board and a whole ecosystem of protocols that they can invest in and know that they're not going to get scammed on, I think that's what we're going to see is a case of a rising tide lifting all ships. And I think that's going to distinctly benefit both the investors within the protocols within the Union of Transparency, as well as the protocols within the Union of Transparency themselves.
And how many protocols do you have in that Union of Transparency at the moment?
So currently there's 3 core protocols, and these are protocols that I have a personal connection to. Right now I've built out the team for the Union of Transparency. So I've teamed up with, some of the best PR people in North America, but I also I'm working with people who own publicly traded corporations, people from TradFi that are helping us build out the foundational framework of this organization. But right now it is just Thor, Power, and Hive are the 3 protocols within the Union. I have 15 protocols that are waiting to sign up for the Union, but the Union will not be officially releasing and going public until about early March. From our perspective, we have one chance to launch a regulatory agency like this, and the only way that we're willing to launch it is when we have everything completely really, really solid in place. So that's procedurals, that's foundational work, that's foundational framework, that's rubrics in order to sign up, that's repercussions if protocols break any of the Union rules. What we're trying to really do is create a full-fledged BBB but for DeFi.
Okay.
So
Sorry,
my
Stephen.
one question. I was
Yeah,
going to say
yeah,
my
no.
one question in the same kind of realm as the Union of Transparency is, what are your concerns for these node projects? Because besides the couple that you mentioned, I mean, we're currently tracking about 36 different node projects right now.
Yeah.
And all their treasuries have this issue where they all reinvest in other node projects. Like Thor owns Strong, Power, I mean, same kind of thing. Power owns Thor and Strong. Like you end up with these circular investing strategies where these node projects end up owning other node projects. Do you feel like this is going to create an issue where it's a house of cards in the end?
Yes and no, no and yes, right? What I would do is I would look at the investments that Thor has made, Thor specifically, because that's what I'm here to talk about. When we're talking about our strong investment was our second investment, and it was also one of the lowest dollar figure investments. The entire purpose here is to have a diversified treasury allocation, and then to allow the diversified treasury allocation to produce the revenue to then justify the buybacks and the payouts. So when you're looking at, node and project, investing in a node and project, what we did is we invested into the OG node project, and we've taken a very small allocation of our overall treasury values and the overall investment amounts that we've already made. And that's just one very small function within the treasury. That's one very small revenue stream. So, it would be totally a house of cards situation if it was, all of our treasuries were investing in each other's node protocols and it all exists on new buyers coming in, but that's simply not the case for Thor and for Power and for Hive. We're all transitioning out of that Ponzi-nomic stage into a proper revenue generation, and that's being done through not only the revenue generation mechanisms that I've stated and we've talked about already, but as well as some new interesting ones that we're introducing relatively soon.
Um, Now, do you have, by chance, I know a couple things here, is about the Thor lottery, right? Is there still a problem generating random numbers on the avax chain? And do you have a projected date for that?
So we have I don't have a projected date on that right now, but what we are working is we're looking to work with ChainStack and to see whether or not their RFV is going to finally work on the AVAX network. But what we want to do is, if that doesn't work, we're going to create our own RNG mechanism, and the only way for us to justifiably have a lottery aspect within our protocol is we'd want to have that entire contract audited. This is something that as the V2 contracts roll out and we continue on our conversations with Chainlink, if that doesn't work out, then we will be creating our own RNG mechanism, and then that RNG mechanism won't be going live until it's fully penetration tested and audited by CertiK.
Cool.
I've got Steve, I've got a related question to that.
Go for it.
So I'm an infrastructure and security type of guy. I mean, I love the website; looks great, wonderful graphics. In terms of penetration tests, audits, etc., what does that look like?
So we sent our original batch of contracts out to HashX, and that was sent out, I think, 3 days after launch, and we've still not received it back. So we have a serious problem with HashX, and we've been very disappointed with the service that we've received with them so far. So all of the new V2 contracts that are coming out literally within the next couple weeks here, what we did is we put it to community vote, and we put it to a snapshot vote. The options were between Paladin and CertiK, and our community overwhelmingly voted for CertiK. So all future contracts, as well as the contracts that are coming up for V2, are all submitted to CertiK the minute that they're finished.
But why the single company? I mean, surely you want penetration tests done by multiple companies. Different companies pick up on different things.
So we're doing peer reviews. So we're sending out our contracts to other union protocols for them to do their own penetration testing. But really, what we're more than open to have it audited by several companies. But we want to make sure that we're focusing on the predominant company for smart contract audits and penetration testing, which is CertiK. And then after that, we can send that contract out to whoever else. We have no problem with having as many eyes on the new contracts as possible. We want to make sure that, we are, a very secure protocol. We are a very secure protocol. There's been a lot of other projects that forked from us or, forked from Ring that had that same exploit issue that Ring had, where essentially, an exploiter could come in and make as many nodes as they want and print as many tokens as they want through rewards. We never faced that issue, and that's because we took security very seriously from the beginning. So from our perspective, CertiK audit is the first step, and that's coming with full penetration testing. We also want to go through peer review, and we're more than happy to send it out to a secondary audit company after that.
Okay. And do you guys have a bug bounty program? Any sort of hackathon events that are lined up?
We don't as of yet. That's something that we're very interested in. And that's something that more than likely after the CertiK audits, we'll be introducing some mechanisms, for our community to be involved. The thing is, we're not planning on making our contracts publicly available, simply for the fact that we want to avoid a bunch of other projects forking off of us and ruining the overall node credibility by rugging, because that's what we've seen a lot happen. That's what we noticed with our initial contracts. As soon as we came out and we had the success that we noticed a lot of other node protocols would just fork us and then essentially rug, and that's something that we're trying to avoid. So we're trying to find that perfect balance between allowing a bug program and a bug bounty program while simultaneously keeping our IP safe.
Okay, I understand that. My concern here is that you're offering this for peer review, you're offering this to your community members to validate, but without that bug bounty program, there's little incentive of someone not exploiting that bug and taking the gains for themselves. Once you have the bug bounty program, they're more than incentive.
We're going through the security measures that we're going through, right? That's we're paying CertiK a significant amount of money, and we're giving them a significant amount of time to fully penetration to test out our contracts. But we're also giving it to multiple other credible node projects for them to go through it as well. We're not against a bug bounty program. It's just about how it's going to be formulated after the audit results are in.
Okay, all right, I'll leave it there.
Does CertiK provide any insurance or guarantees then if their test comes back all good and then you are still exploited?
Well, look, we have not dealt with a single exploit, and we've gone through multiple contract revisions. We're also one of the biggest node protocols on AVAX, well, really just in the entire DeFi community. And so we've been a target since we've launched. So I think, both what we're doing, as well as what we're going to be doing in the future for peer review and introducing potentially a bug bounty program, I think that that's more than really every other node protocol that's ever existed. We're going above and beyond, and we have no problem going above and beyond. But I think at some point it's people getting concerned, scared over their shadows. We've gone through rough times. We've been a target from malicious actors, and we've never had an exploit. And I think that really does speak to our ability to have very secure contracts.
But you've existed for 8 weeks, roughly.
We've existed for 8 weeks. The entire industry has been around for a little bit, and
every other blockchain almost gets hacked.
No, there's no question about that. We're not a full chain, though, my friend. And at the end of the day, we've been a target for about 8 weeks now. There's been other node projects that have been targets for about 8 weeks now, and those other targets have been hacked, and those other targets have had exploits, and we haven't. I think that really does speak to the security, as well as the additional measures that I've already gone over that we are going through.
Now, for security, we have a question from the community. It says, "Are you seeking a SOC 1/2 designation for overall security?"
I'm not gonna lie. I'm not a security expert myself. I'm a community manager.
Gotcha.
So I'll be honest. I'm kind of at my level of expertise here on the matter.
That's what we respect. If you don't know the answer, just say it.
But I'll tell you right now. Whatever the highest level of security audits and penetration testing that's offered by Certic, we are using. So the very highest level, and then after, we're more than happy to send this to multiple audit agencies. We have no problem with that. From our perspective, we really want to prioritize. We know that we develop secure contracts, but there's no harm in having it constantly tested. And things like a bug bounty program is something that we're very interested in for the future.
Awesome. So we'll go back a little bit here. Is you said you touched based on it for a second. Was a cap on nodes, right? Now, with that, going over to V2, let's say you're at the cap of nodes on V2, what happens when that starts up and that person has more nodes than is allowed on V2? How would that work? Let's say.
So the cap is not coming with V2. The cap is coming with our full-fledged marketplace.
Okay.
Those is intertwined, right? So what we will be doing when we're a couple weeks out from the marketplace, we will be announcing the final node cap. And that will essentially be no new nodes can be generated. As soon as we come out with the marketplace, every single one of our nodes will be turning into an NFT. So the only way that anyone's going to be able to purchase a node and obtain a node is to buy it through the secondary market. The whole concept behind that is we almost want to treat these nodes like a rental property, where you have a piece of real estate or an asset here that's going to appreciate over time due to scarcity and supply and demand, while simultaneously providing you that passive income. So that's really what the entire model is. And the only reason that we're introducing the cap and NFTs as our nodes with the marketplace is we need to ensure that there's still buying demand and utility behind our token. We can't face a situation where there's no reason to buy Thor if you can't make a node with it. So things like our LP staking pool and the staking pools and the lottery mechanisms and a lot of the other features that we're bringing out that are going to bring utility to Thor. The biggest utility that we see is having Thor become a transactional token on a really active marketplace and launchpad. So that's really where we see the buying demand happening. And that's how we shift out of the Ponzi-nomics, to where our model no longer, and our treasury growth no longer depends on new nodes being created and new people buying in, but actually on transactional volume on an active marketplace.
Now, with that, right, let's just adjust the elephant in the room. Halving came. We all knew there was going to be a drop a little bit in price from the halving. That's just normal, right? So what is going to stop that from happening on V2? Are you going to be doing any more halving in the future? Have plans for that at all?
So we have no more plans for having the rewards. I mean, obviously what we're doing, we have to be agile in this space where this is a new model that we're really pioneering here. But right now our current emission rates are much more under control. That's the reason why we had the recent halving event. The V2 contracts don't adjust rewards or edit rewards at all. It actually just adds new utility within the ecosystem. So what we want to do is we want to find a situation where we can continuously add utility and revenue streams to our model without having to cut the rewards. And so we don't have any plans to cut rewards until we really ever. But certainly right now we have zero plans to cut the current reward rates.
Now, with cutting the reward rates, what about the tax to claim those rewards? Do you plan on lowering that at all, or raising it, or anything like that?
Yeah, so we have lowered the tax. We have a flat tax across each of the different tiers. So it's a flat tax ranging from 1% to 10% on the claim side of things, and so that depends on whether or not you have the lowest node, a Heimdall, up to an Odin node. But what we are also doing is we're looking at potentially introducing a gradual sale tax, or different forms of taxes that we may be introducing. We're exploring, but what we want to do is we really want to monitor the buy and sell pressure and then adjust from there. What we're also doing is we're introducing a maintenance fee into it, into our nodes, because our nodes are real nodes now, and that allows us to also have a very clear and defined consistent revenue stream that we can also use to justify our reward rates. So it's this whole game and this entire model is not about just having a treasury that's investing and producing returns, but it's about having a diversified revenue stream through like let's say 10 different revenue streams, and all of those revenue streams' sole focus is to sustain the rewards that we offer to our investors.
So I will say this. I think in the Discord, right, it's not really mentioned that many places. So I know you have like the help for sell pressure. You have the ability, if you want to sell over $20,000 worth, just do it over the counter, submit a ticket, and you guys will do that. Are you more focused on that in the future, so some of the bigger whales don't sell?
Huge.
Or
Huge. So OTC was another thing that we pioneered in the space. We were the very first node project to introduce that. And so what we want to do with the OTC offerings is, certainly after V2 here, is we want to have it much more in an automated process. Right now it's all manual, to where essentially I'm providing the escrow service, and that requires trust on both the buyer and the seller side that I'm not going to personally run away with the funds. And we have transacted hundreds of thousands of dollars now in OTC, and that's been dumps that have been avoided on the marketplace. But what we want to do is we want to create a very clear system and a simpler system and automate the entire process. So that's stuff that we're working on currently, and we're going to be making it more public. It's certainly with the new UI updates as well. We're going to have an entire OTC function built into the UI that makes it very clear to people who maybe not on the Twitter or on the Discord, but everyone who goes to the D app is going to be aware that there's OTC offerings available.
do you plan on lowering that down a little bit so it helps on the LP side of things? The price doesn't drop that much. Let's say maybe lowering down to 12,000 instead of 20,000.
Well, we started off with 50,000 and we've lowered it down to 20,000. We're evaluating, right? Because, those buys certainly help out the price as well. And what we don't want to do is we don't want to rob too much from our 24-hour volume. Volume is very important for us to maintain as well on the market. So it's about finding that perfect balance. The reason we introduced the LP staking was to allow those bigger buys and sells to also be able to hit the market without adjusting the price too much. That's the reason we have, between, $15 to $20 million in our liquidity pools.
Awesome. Now speaking of that, I don't know, I was trying to get onto your Treasury website about an hour ago, and it's just not loading, by the way.
We've been dealing with an API issue, and we've been so focused on the new contracts. We do have a DBank listing that has the entire treasury value, and that's also in the official links section of our server.
Okay. All
yeah,
right.
so that's just the workaround here until we have the V2 contracts out and the new UI. Because what we're planning on doing is also introducing the entire treasury page into the DApp UI itself. So that way it's all trackable in one source.
Okay. All right. Vic, do you have a...
Yeah, I was going to say, on the topic of the treasury, I know it's been a topic that's kind of been going around the Discord as well as some of our community members, is what's the current runway on the treasury if all the investment from new users stop today? What are you guys currently projecting for run-out time until the treasury can't sustain the reward basis?
Well, I mean, to be completely honest, looking at the current market condition, we can't sustain the current rewards. It's just that simple. We're facing a bleeding market right now, and that's the reason why we've really prioritized not just treasury investments, but additional revenue streams that are independent of market conditions. That's the reason we've gone heavily into the validator nodes. That's the reason we're going so heavy into the metaverse, and that's the reason why we're looking at marketplaces and other things that have not even been announced yet. What we're trying to do is we're trying to shift the burden for the reward distribution from just treasury investments over to a multitude of different revenue streams. But as for the current runway, I mean, runway is a question that happens to the DAOs a lot. It's something that I don't think is particularly valid in a node project because that runway, if we're just talking about distribution of rewards, we have hundreds of days of rewards that we can distribute through the current reward pools. But that would hurt the price significantly because there'd be an influx of tokens into the circulating supply. So that it's something that's a little bit more difficult, but we have a couple hundred days worth of just reward pool runway.
Now, is that calculating more people buying in as well, or just what we're sitting at right now today?
No, that's calculating like today's daily emissions.
Okay.
Of the rewards versus the reward pools that we have.
Okay. On the treasury, in terms of investment, are there some rules that you guys follow that in order for you guys to invest in certain DeFi platform or NFT, it has to have a certain amount of volume or liquidity or whatever inflation?
So we actually work with two different DeFi strategists. So these are people with a historical, these are, David Doughton is one of them. And then we also have a couple other people that we work with in conjunction. These are people with years of trading experience and years of due diligence in DeFi projects experience. And so what we do is we actually operate similarly to a DAO, to where all of our treasury votes are put up to a snapshot vote and our community votes on a curated list. That curated list is generally 4 options deep. And what we do is we provide in-depth information on each one of the different options, as well as the links out to the docs. So our community can make a little bit more of an informed decision on what protocols we enter into next.
Okay, and apologies if I missed this on your Discord, but is there like a monthly then report on the returns of your investment of, what the community takes?
Right now it's because we're so new and we're working on about 1 billion different things, we have not been able to compile out weekly reports or anything like that. What we are looking to do is we're looking to have that on the new UI. So when we release our new UI, we want to have, all of our investments are fully public. We put we include the TX hashes in there as well. So you can check on the blockchain. It's a manual process right now. So you can check exactly the day that we went in, the price that we bought in, and then you can compare that to current. And you can have an idea for yourself, just off of that. But what we want to do is we want to have it all centralized within the D app. So that's one of the major advancements that we're making in the new UI overhaul. It's not just something that's going to be prettying up the entire website in D app, but is offering that additional functionality and transparency within that new overhaul.
Okay, we talked about auditing security before, but in terms of auditing the financials, is that something that's being done as well?
Well, the beautiful thing about having a public treasury is you can view it yourself. You can audit yourself. You can audit all the investments yourself. You can everything there is public for you to see for yourself.
That's a blockchain, right?
Yep.
That's the beautiful thing about the blockchain is it all exists there. You just need the TX hashes and there you go. You can check.
The thing is the blockchain doesn't lie.
Yeah, that's the immutable thing, and that's the reason I think we all know that DeFi and the blockchain is the future.
So now speaking on that subject, is someone from Thor going to set up a proper, say, analytics page on perhaps something like Dune Finance Dune Analytics? So that,
we're actually we're setting up the Dune Analytics prior to the V2. So we're trying to offer a stopgap before, because look, DBank is great, but it's not perfect for you it's not super easy and it's not super laid out for people to be able to track everything. So while we're still developing out the UI and be able to have those analytics distinctly on the UI itself, we are building out a Dune Analytics page out. So that's going to be a lot more simple for everybody. We're hoping to have that out in the next few days. I have gotten confirmation of that from the developers.
Great. We have another question there from the community about the V2 contract. So I know you guys aren't releasing it at the moment because you're still waiting for the pen testing from Centric. But when that contract comes out, is that going to address some of the downward pressure that we're currently seeing on the Thor pricing?
Yes. So, because we're a fork, there's some immutable aspects of the contracts that we fork that we don't necessarily have the control. When we have our own custom contracts for everything, we have a lot more fine-tuned control. So what we want to do is we don't want to have the protocol contribute any downward sell pressure, and that's primarily being done through all claiming, compounding, and node purchases. All of that Thor that's collected by those fees going directly to the treasury, and then that allows us to have a lot more flexibility on what we do with that Thor in order to gain that treasury value. Whether or not we look at bonding, exploring bonding opportunities, or even letting price action and then start to control the price action both upwards and downwards, so we can promote a little bit more stable sideways trading activity.
Okay.
Another question, right? It says from the community, what is the thing that will make Thor different or unique with all these new node projects coming out every week?
Well, I mean, everything that we've added into our protocol, as well as where our future is. A lot right now, the trend of the season seems to be all of these different node protocols are trying to start their own chain. Which is, without a question, definitely a viable strategy. But I think we're going to face a situation of underutilization and oversaturation. And that's something that we want to avoid as an organization. And that's the reason I think the metaverse side and the marketplace side is a uniquely situated Thor above everyone else. And then, I would also just look at our node count. The only other protocol that has more nodes than us, at a reasonable value per node, that's not like 20 cents a node or something like that, is Strong. And so from our perspective, we see Strong being very successful from to their path to sustainability by offering a full out blockchain. And we think the other side of the coin is the method that we're going at, trying to achieve our true sustainability through an active marketplace.
Now, have you guys talked to Strong at all and had communications with them?
I haven't gotten anything back from them.
Now, sorry, Vic. My apologies.
I was just gonna say, so you have some, you said you have some DeFi experts that are looking into helping you guys vet projects and investing. Have you guys specifically gone over the tokenomics currently for Strong? Like, there's some pretty concerning things right now in the Strong community. If you look at the amount of awards being sold versus the amount of awards being recompounded back into them for any kind of long-term run out. Like I was saying before, like as far as the runway goes, if you start extrapolating on Strong, which has now been out for, call it almost 2 years, basically 2 years it's been running. We're around like the 18-month mark. If you look at that reward allocation, it's basically an exponential curve that's not sustainable.
So I don't want to. I'm not a fan of talking negatively about other projects.
I'm not saying negative about them, but just looking to the future for Thor. These are questions you're going to have to deal with.
But we don't, because we're not just nodes as a service. You have to look at the actual reward distribution for nodes as a service protocols and where that actual income is being generated. Is it solely the burden on new node creation that sustains the current reward rate, or is there revenue being generated as well? So if you look at a nodes as a service, traditional nodes as a service, the Strong has a very clear revenue source, and that's that $15 a month per node maintenance fee that they charge every month. But the actual reward rates for the reward pools themselves, that's generated purely off new people buying into the system. Which is inherently unsustainable, and that's a distinct problem. And I think that's something that Strong is working actively to solve. And I think that they're going to try to find the solution through a full blockchain. And I wish them the absolute best of luck. The great thing is when you have a fusion of DeFi as a service and nodes as a service, is we actually have revenue. So right away we don't have the exact same problems. There's not to say that we don't have an element of needing new people to buy in order to sustain the current price, but this is more of a means to an end, and our revenue streams are consistently increasing over time and becoming more and more diversified. So our reward rates doesn't, at the end of the day, is not going to be dictated on new people buying in. That's half the reason why we're introducing a full out node cap, but it's actually being produced by the revenue that's generated from the protocol.
So is that revenue visible on the blockchain? I know the initial investment would be in different DeFi protocols, but that revenue that you're talking about, where is that visible?
Well, right now the entire revenue is through the treasury investments, right? But when we're talking about future revenue, we're talking about revenue through the maintenance fees, which will be publicly made, revenue through the metaverse and play to earn games, which will be publicly made, revenue through the marketplace, which will be publicly made. That's what and revenue through the validators, which is also on the blockchain because it's a validator node. So these are the different things that we're doing. We have started off being transparent, and we're not going to be stopping that anytime soon. And transparency means admitting that not everything is perfect at the moment. But what I want to make it very clear is that we have a very clear future and a very clear roadmap on how we're going to reach that full out sustainability.
I like that. Transparency and honesty is the best thing that you can do in any project, and especially on the blockchain, because people do like to play games sometimes. So being transparent and aligning up with what's on the blockchain, because again, it does not lie. So
Well, that's the beautiful thing about the blockchain, right?
Yeah.
There doesn't exist a situation where Thor's saying we're making X and you can't go verify that yourself on the blockchain. And that's what we really want to encourage. And that's also why we've had such an educational focus on our protocol is we want more people to understand exactly how the model works, exactly how the model will work in the future. And then really understand how they can track everything. Because we can make a pretty dashboard, right? And say, oh, we're making X amount from this and X amount for that. But that's all done by server side, right? It's much preferable for us to be able to present that information and then go, okay, and now you can check it out for yourself on the blockchain.
Okay. Another question from the community here is, how many daily users are you guys looking at right now, and what is your projection, let's say over the next month? Do you think there's going to be a 5% increase, a 10% increase? And with that,
I mean, when you say daily users, are you talking about independent wallets that are on that are here, or the amount of people that are joining the Discord server or following the Twitter account every day?
People claiming rewards with nodes, people buying new nodes on a daily, like how.
We have over 20. The last time I checked, we had about 21,000 wallets that are registered to our contract. So that's a very impressive growth for over the course of 2 months. But from our perspective, it's much less about encouraging and getting as many people into the system as possible and buying up the system, rather than being able to serve our current community and the current amount of nodes with their rewards through our revenue streams. We're less focused about constantly increasing the wallet count, and we're much more focused about producing revenue that's going to justify the current holders' wallet counts.
Gotcha. Now the marketplace, right? Do you have any kind of time frame you could give us on that?
I don't.
No. It's just work in progress.
We're looking at a couple months.
A couple months. Okay. Yep. Sorry, Vic.
No, it's all good. So with the advent and the scrutiny put on proof of work blockchains and the issues surrounding energy usage, which is a whole nother topic, which is more or less unfounded. Have you guys looked at your image and how you might try to carbon offset or greenwash it going into the space, since you are trying to set the example for like the de facto node as a service, DeFi as a service platform?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, we're not a chain, so there is no proof of work or proof of stake for our system. But we are also hosted on one of the best environmentally and lowest energy cost proof of stake blockchains out there called Avalanche. So I think we're very clear about our preference of proof of stake and the system, and not only just the environmental impacts of proof of stake, but the scalability and sharding ability that proof of stake presents. So that's the cool thing about not being a blockchain, is we don't necessarily have the same ire when it comes down to mining and things like that.
Well, there's still an energy consumption required though for interacting with Thor Financial. Like, you're still hosted on a blockchain. You guys still are running nodes. You've now developed this P2E game. You're going to have a marketplace. There will be energy usage that's measurable.
Absolutely. But I mean, when we're talking about proof of work versus proof of stake, we're talking about a 96% reduction in energy costs.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, we are a blockchain, we are a DeFi project. We exist on the internet, and there is an inherent amount of energy consumption that's going to happen. What we need to do is we need to focus on, we don't. I don't think energy concerns should be a real element of us. I think that's much more on the host chain. And what we've done is we've hosted ourselves on a chain that has one of the best energy consumptions out there.
Okay. Thank you.
In terms of validators and other chains, is there any view to onboard other validators on other blockchains?
Yep. So we've already allocated enough DAG for Constellation. So we do plan on operating validator nodes there. It's they do them in chunks though, on when you can make them. So we've secured the DAG for the node, and now we're just waiting for the time that can come out. We've also, just from our last Treasury vote, our community has voted for a Gala node. So it looks like we will be getting 1 or 2 of the founder Gala nodes as well. Added into our added into our revenue streams.
But decent investment, I think.
It's a significant investment. Yeah. It's a pretty significant
bullish on Gala, by the way.
I'm sorry?
I'm bullish on Gala.
Oh, I'm very bullish on Gala. I'm very bullish on the future of Gala. I think the price appreciation is there. Certainly when they hit the quota for their nodes and then the nodes become transferable, I think that's going to be a very good payday for the protocol. But we want to continuously expand out validator nodes. We just need to make sure whatever validator nodes that we get into has a reasonable investment to reward rate. We can't be just doing validator nodes that produce 5%. We need to average out, and 15 to 20% minimum, and then allow the influx of delegations to start making up that difference.
Now, in terms of delegations, do you currently provide links or access to the specific nodes that Thor owns on AVAX and FTM, so that Thor community members can delegate their stake towards those nodes?
Yep. We have them all public, and so they're public within our Discord. They're also certainly with the new UI updates, we want to make the linking out to them and the discovery of them a little bit easier. But we are looking at both of our Phantom nodes are nearing 1 million Phantom tokens staked. Obviously, the delegations are about 500,000 of those tokens. So we have seen a nice adoption of these validator nodes from our community, and we're expecting that to be significantly more once we have them a little bit easier to discover.
Sorry, no, go ahead.
I was going to say, who in your current team sets up those validator nodes, secures them and maintains them?
Yeah, so that's done by our lead dev Heimdall. He's been KYC'd and all of that, but also all of our validators are locked for a year.
Okay.
So for the Phantom ones, for example, you can go down the validator list. You can see both of the Thor Financial. One's called Thor Financial, the other one's called Thor Bifrost. And you can see both the delegations that have been made out by the community, as well as the lockup period on the validators.
I was just, running some validators myself. It's quite a, as updates go out, as security updates go out, it's quite a big task to keep all these validators up to date, maintained fit for purpose. I was just wondering if there was a designated person that does that.
We have a single designated person, as we also have specific designated hardware in order to be able to run these validators. And the great thing also about us is we have a relationship with a lot of the foundations for the blockchains for validators that we operate with. So that's given us snapshots and abilities to sync up to those blockchains a little bit faster than if we were just going from block 0.
Are you guys looking into purchasing more of those FTM validators at all, or no?
Well, we're open to it. We have 2, and I think 2 is probably enough at this point. Certainly if the Phantom network needs it more, we'd be open to it. Certainly, the Phantom validators possess some of the best APY for a validator operator than really any other chain. So we would, of course, be more than happy to look at more if needed. I think we're all expecting Phantom to have a very good 2022, barring, obviously international situations.
Okay. Now with the sell-off, right? Do you think this is going to continue? Obviously, we're in a bear market, So, well, I wouldn't say in a bear market. I should rephrase it. We're pointing towards a bear market. Everything is dropping, right?
I think we're entering one.
Yeah. What is your guys' plan to try to break away from that outside of, we talked about the marketplace buying more validators. What else do you guys plan on doing to bring in more revenue to hopefully bring up the price of Thor?
Well, I mean, that's to offer and consistently offer more utility to our ecosystem. So we recently unveiled out our LP staking and single-sided staking pools. We want to introduce the lottery function. We also want to introduce full play to earn games as well as metaverse games. We also want to, obviously the marketplace is another large element that we're going to be adding that's going to be offering more utility. And then we have a couple other things up our sleeve that we have not publicly disclosed yet of what we're building in the background to offer even more utility. The whole game here, especially if we are entering into a bear market, is to become less fixated on the treasury and the treasury growth and more fixated on the actual revenue streams that are going to be generated independent of market conditions.
Is there any ideas around diversifying into commodities or the general stock market or anything like that beyond crypto?
We're open to it. We're looking into it. The problem is we have to have enough in the way of returns in order to justify an investment. In order for us to justify an investment, we need to be confident that we're going to see the returns that are going to generate the rewards for our user base. Otherwise, we have faced a situation with emissions that we'll either have to cut rewards again, or we'll have to suspend rewards or something like that. And that's something that we want to avoid at all costs. So from our perspective, it makes far more sense to be operating within the space that we are in. But we're certainly looking at off-chain investments as well. We're looking to have a diversified revenue stream, and that's being done through, many different sources of revenue.
That's fair.
Now let's get into God mode, right? As somebody that owns one of the Thor of the 4 Thor nodes, what perks would that person be getting in the future? Whether that would be in sandbox, early access to play to earn that you said. What else do you guys plan on giving?
So right away, God mode has a couple distinct benefits that are already there, and that is the ability to cross compound. So they can compound from any tier into any tier. You can't do that unless you have God mode. If you don't have God mode, let's say, for example, you just have Thor nodes, you can only compound into another Thor node. But a God mode can compound into whatever node that they want, for whatever tier. We also have specific Discord and community benefits. So we have specific chats for God modes. We're also looking to introduce specific AMAs for God mode, but we also want to do some things with NFTs for God mode in addition to the metaverse and play to earn values.
Now, on your marketplace that you guys are talking about, obviously that's going to be on Avalanche, right? Is that what you're going to focus it on?
Yes.
Okay. With that, are you going to be accepting Thor as the main currency?
Yeah. Thor is the actual token. Yes.
Okay. Now, will you offer AVAX as well on there, or will it just be all Thor?
We are planning on having Thor as the transactional currency on the marketplace. That would increase significantly the buying demand. But what it also does is it gives us a lot more freedom over our own token to then remove the unlimited amount of nodes and remove that buying demand without hurting the overall price or the overall utility of the token. And then, obviously with a really fleshed out OTC offering is what we'd want to do for all NFT creators and people launching NFT projects that would, of course, get their NFTs paid in Thor. For them to convert that back to AVAX, we want to be able to offer very clear on and off ramps for that as well.
Awesome. Now, do you guys just plan? I know you have the endpoints set up for Phantom and everything else. Do you have plans to, I don't know, let's just say launch Thor nodes on Ethereum or launch Thor nodes, on a different chain as well?
We're open to cross chain, but what we really want to focus on is sustainability. So that's our priority right now, is being able to find that perfect balance of rewards to sustainability and rewards to revenue to create that sustainability. Once we're at that sustainability, we have far more flexibility to look to expand the ecosystem onto a different chain and onto another chain. Cross chain is something that we're interested in, but it's certainly not at the height of our priority list right now.
Okay. Awesome. Understand. Yeah. making everything good for right now is number one.
In about 40 different directions while we're not completely sustainable and really, really well operating, right?
You want to focus on one thing. Yep.
I think it's about, you know, being able to reach that point of sustainability and feeling very comfortable about the long-term future before we look to take a, you know, a risk on a new chain or to look across chain. It's not something that we hate and that we're not planning on doing. It's just, you know, I think that there's a list of priorities, and I think sustainability should be at the top of that list.
Now, you are DeFi, right? Are you looking into the future of adding a way to automatically, let's say we go to Thor.finance, right? You have the validators, let's say on Phantom. I can automatically stake right from the website into your validators automatically instead of having to go.
You wouldn't be able to stake into the validators, right? Because Thor is not a full blockchain, right? So you're earning Thor. But like, you know, having a swap function for like Thor
That's what I meant.
Thor to avax, and then having a direct stake and delegate into the validators is something that we're obviously very interested in.
Do you plan on doing that?
Well, I can't give you a definite answer here, but
sure.
that's something that we're seriously looking at, and we're exploring the different feasibility options on that.
In that same vein, have you guys also looked at doing direct offerings for on-ramping through the Thor website, like actually providing a mechanism to take, say, like a payment through like MoonPay or Wire or Transact or something to get people directly into Thor or the AVAX chain?
Yeah, so we have Ryan Stryker, who is one of our business development experts, and he was just over at the Synapse Summit, and he's going to a bunch of these other conferences. We're really building up the relationship with traditional finance, and as well as some different higher end individuals within the traditional finance world to help us consistently increase our offerings. I'm not ready to go publicly into detail about that yet, but you know, as I said here a couple times, you know, we have a lot of things that we've announced and we've disclosed what the future is happening. We also have some cards up our sleeve, and that's potentially one of the cards up our sleeves that we have.
Okay.
Now, I've seen this question a lot. I'm looking at chat too, and somebody just brought it up again. I know you're DeFi. Do you plan on listing on any centralized exchanges at all?
Yes.
Do you want to do that? You do?
Yeah, we do have intentions to do that. You know, we currently maintain more than enough volume to justify that. Certainly for like a KuCoin or a Binance or a Crypto.com or a Coinbase or something like that. We are currently tracked on Coinbase as well. I think we're one of the few, if only, node protocols that are tracked. But that's something that's going to be happening more than likely after our V2 updates.
Okay. And when do you plan those to come out?
Plan for what?
V2.
The V2. So we're looking at about 2 to 3 weeks. I have it announced in the Discord with the general ETAs. Obviously, when we're talking about development, it's just like when you have a contractor over your house when you're redoing something. It's impossible to know exactly the date, but we're making some really good progress on them. Parts of V2 are already out. That's our LP staking and our single staking pools. But you know, there's we're looking at a couple weeks here before V2 is officially out and out for contract. Out for audit.
Now, with those exchanges, right? Maybe you can give the alpha some alpha. What exchanges have you talked to? Because I got the feel that you've already talked to them.
We have. I can't go into detail. I'm sorry, my friend. I'm under NDAs.
I got you. No,
yeah,
I totally.
I wish I could. But yeah, no, we have had a couple talks. And that's we're building out those relationships as we speak.
Does it start with a K?
Don't know what you're talking about.
Is the market volume under 5 million a day?
I don't know what you're talking about, my friend. I think the people.
Fair enough.
I think the People's Protocol is a great fit for the People's Exchange.
Okay.
Yep. All right. Perfect.
Fair enough.
Love it. Oh man. All right. I think we got the answer for that question. Let's open, I guess. Do you, Wuhan or Vic, have any more questions to ask at all?
No, not at the moment, no. Just opening up to community, I think.
Yeah. Let me just double check my list that I have.
Do you have anything, Vic?
Yeah.
No, I was just going to ask, I mean, if there's any other, you don't really have a control over it because they're decentralized, but do you have any other decentralized swaps that have approached you about hosting the coin or looking to get Thor featured, or it's just letting whoever...
We've had several. I mean, obviously, all of the all the dexes right now are after the liquidity, right? And we have a significant amount of liquidity, which makes us a very prime partner for a lot of these different decentralized exchanges. Right now our focus is maintaining on Trader Joe, and essentially have our liquidity there before we're ready to announce, maybe something else that we're working on.
First game. How is the interoperability with other AVAX projects helping the development?
I don't want to go into a bunch of detail about that. But there's a lot of things that we're exploring. We're not necessarily focused on interoperability with other AVAX projects. We really want to make sure that we have a very solid product that we offer, and then expand that interoperability at a later date. Without going into a lot of detail, that first part of that question is very interesting to us.
Awesome. Now I have a question. I'm gonna be a little selfish here. We are the Alpha Exchange. We give out alpha information. What kind of alpha information can you provide to us that is not out yet?
I'm sorry, brother. There's nothing I can't give you. I can't give you anything that is not publicly released yet. What I
You can make it publicly released here.
Unfortunately, that's something I'm gonna have to save for my community. But what I will say is, we really do believe in under promising and over delivering. So the announcements that you see and the updates that you see, I really think we've downplayed the potentiality of the net positive effects. And we have not even gone into detail about some of the additional things that we have coming down the pipeline. So what I would say is really pay attention to how good this metaverse game is going to be. Here's a little bit of an alpha. We really like Fortnite, and we really like the concept of having skins and things like that. And so we have an entire world within the Unity system that we have generated and made. And Battle Royale, we're a big fan of that genre.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
Right.
Interesting.
I just gave you a hell of an alpha, my friend.
That is a good of an alpha.
On that. Yeah, there you go.
I'm going to go to Twitter right now. I'm going to Twitter right now. Confirmed Fortnite in Thor metaverse. I don't know if you two have any more questions.
I got two from the community that's kind of tied together. So
right.
So the community's kind of asked in like an elevator pitch style, why should I invest in Thor? And what's Thor's ultimate goal? Like if you had to encapsulate everything Thor is trying to do, what would be its like mission statement?
Well, I mean, look, I can't tell you why you should invest in Thor. I think our actions speak a hell of a lot louder than words in that regard. So I would highly encourage you just to come out and check our community, talk to our community, see the individuals that we have there. We have a very large, diverse, active community of really positive people, and we don't deal with a lot of toxicity and stuff like that. I would also take a look at not only our current investments and our future investments, but also our larger scale revenue sources. So the end all goal here for Thor is to have a very clear amount of emissions that are being generated by a very clear amount of nodes, and the revenue to sustain all of those rewards in a long-term basis. Ideally, we want to have essentially a system that's going to work by itself as soon as we've built out all the foundations.
I have one last question. It says we need to do this again after V2 is launched.
Sure.
Awesome.
Sure.
Awesome.
Maybe
bring a dev person on. We can ask questions from the dev side if that's possible.
Sure. I'll reach out. I'll reach out to the developers. I mean, they're not against doing AMAs. They're obviously extremely busy. Hopefully after V2 we have a little bit of downtime where that's possible. But as long as it's possible, I got no problem, and I'll certainly ask Heimdall to see if he can come on. He won't go on camera, but he'll be there in an audio form for sure.
Awesome. All right, great.
The community will just hold you liable.
Hey, I'm the face. What can I do?
Yeah. Well, it was great having you here, Loki. We really appreciate you coming out. I mean, you can't see the chat, but the community's throwing you a bunch of love in the chat right now.
Oh, thank you very much, community. I very much appreciate that. Hopefully,
love the energy. Love the energy. Love the transparency. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
But yeah, this is also a really safe space too. We try to pride ourselves on making this a welcoming community and keep it safe and friendly for people that are just getting started and veterans alike. So I mean, again, if anyone's ever got any questions, you're always welcome to send them here. We're live 24/7, so we're always happy to give whatever information we can, direct people around, provide resources where possible.
I think someone asked if you were single.
I'm painfully single, and nobody wants to be in a relationship with me. I work 13 to 15 hours a day. I'm telling you right now, I don't have any attention to give anybody else other than what I'm doing actively.
You sound like us. One of us. One of us.
Crypto is life. Crypto is
yes. This
Another
is very
one.
True. Another one.
All right.
All right.
Thank you so much for having me. I so appreciate it. It was great to talk to you guys. Great to meet your community here, and more than happy to do another AMA after V2 is out and do a little bit of a victory lap.
Hey, well, it's
Sounds
not just a
perfect.
community. It's both our communities because a bunch of us are also in Thor as well. We have quite a number of people both in this community, part of your community. So we're a lot more intertwined than you think.
That's awesome. And any Asgardians watching, I'll see you back there in the server.